compete at a consistent and championship level. Once kids do that, I think it's important that you as a coaching staff put them in a position to have an opportunity to have a role and play a part of what you're doing. Quarterbacks, just like every other position, those competitive battles that they're in, you dwindle the reps down and make decisions when guys have shown that they've earned the opportunity to become a 1 or become a 2 or become a 3, based on how they perform. And so as we go through training camp, the players will dictate how that unfolds.
Yeah, Coach, two things follow up on that. Does that mean you're okay if it's a 2-quarterback platoon thing to start the year, or do you want it to be 1 quarterback as the starter? And then secondly, you spoke all offseason about kind of the things you've done outside of football, whether it's the cookouts or the dodgeballs or whatever. Is that something you've done everywhere, or is that something when you got here you felt like it was needed more here than maybe other places you've been?
Yeah, for the quarterbacks, they're going to earn their role as they go through training camp. I anticipate us having a starter. That doesn't mean that other guys won't have an opportunity to play. And what that looks like is dictated by the performance during the course of training camp and where you feel like collectively and individually that group lies. And if you look at our track record, we've typically had a starter, but other guys have had situational roles that have been a big part of our success offensively. I don't think any position, the strength of a position can just be one guy. I know that's unique with a quarterback that there typically is one guy, but I think you got to continually develop that room. As far as team activities, building a culture, one of connection and love inside of our building, that certainly was really important here. It was one of the 2 things that I took away from my initial team meeting with them that they felt like was missing here, and something that was really important to them. I think that's who I am and what I'm about inside of the culture of the building. Hired staff that is wired that way too. It was important for us that we work really hard and compete really hard every single day, but at the same time you can enjoy the people that you're doing that with. And I think it's important that you create opportunities outside of the game to share and grow and learn who your teammates and your staff are. And we've done that at other places. Certainly you guys have seen we put a ton of time and energy into that all spring and then certainly this summer as well.
Hey Josh, Vince Ferrar, 99.1 The Sports Animal here in Knoxville. How do you balance starters versus reserves in special teams? I understand nothing is absolute and you could have a blend, but wanting to have your best players maybe on the field as much as possible versus giving some guys some valuable time on the field.
It's a third of the game that if you ask our players, they understand the importance of it. For us, we feel like we need to win that third of that phase of the game every single week. To do that, you got to play your best players. Does that mean a starting DB or wide receiver is going to play on all 4 special teams? Probably not, but they're going to play a role on our team's unit. And I think as you go through training camp, you balance the depth chart of where your roster's at with guys that can maybe be core team guys based on where you feel like they fall in the offensive defensive depth chart, that maybe are guys that are core guys that play on all 4 teams. At the end of the day, those 11 guys got to be able to function and play at a championship level. Those units, as much as anything, offense and defense, they have to have your trust as a coach. And, that's the process that we'll go through. All of our guys all spring long took special teams rep. I don't care if we were on punt return, kickoff cover, kick return, everybody was repping. As we go through training camp, those numbers will shrink down a little bit.
Ben McKee with the Swain event and VolQuest. Josh, when it does come time to decide on a quarterback, what kind of particular skills are you definitively looking for? What does a quarterback have to show you that they can accomplish throughout fall camp to earn your trust to be named the starter?
Yeah, you said the key thing. You have to trust them. They have the ball in their hand every single play. They are a decision maker. They control so much of what we do offensively in the pass game, in the run game as well. There's a lot on their plate. And so the ability to trust that guy with the ball is extremely important. I think it's important that, your offensive players, your staff on both sides, and your defensive players see that guy earns the opportunity to be that guy. He's got to be a guy that can handle not playing a game of perfection too, and be able to reset from one play to another. That includes after a great play, but certainly after a negative play too, the ability to respond the right way.
Hey Josh, Trey Wallace, Rocky Top Insider. over the course of the summer and coming out of the spring, how do you assess the running back situation going out there in the fall camp? You have so many different type of weapons. How do you plan on breaking that up into reps and looking for one?
Yeah, an inexperienced group, but a group that we really like the talent inside of the room and the ability for them to play a part in what we're doing. I think as much as anything during the course of spring ball, it grew in the understanding of protections, which is a pivotal part of being able to play that guy on every down. Those guys got better with ball security. I think it's a group that there's great competition in as we head into training camp. The number of reps that we get during the course of a day on the offensive side of the football, those guys will be able to get tested, be thrown in the fire, have a bunch of reps, make a mistake, grow from it, have success, and grow from it too. Looking forward to that competition this training camp.
John Adams, Knox News. Josh, from all you know about Aaron Beasley's case, I know he's been reinstated on the team. From all you know about that, do you feel good about having him on the team?
Yeah, I do. Some of those decisions aren't strictly made by me. Those are things that are done out by, our police force here inside of our community. Our administration plays a part in gaining information and knowledge of what actually transpired. Not all of those things are known publicly all the time, certainly not at the point of the event going public, certainly. And Aaron's a young man that I think has grown in the experience, and we'll take advantage of this opportunity.
Eric Kane, the Sports Animal, and BallQuest.com. After evaluating spring and film and all that, is there any position changes of note heading into fall camp?
No major position changes where a defensive guy got flipped over to offense or anything like that. I think we're going to continue to evolve in the trust and understanding the talent that certain individuals have, and by scheme, offensively and defensively, try to find situations where we can take advantage of their skill set.
Hey, Josh, Blake Topmeyer, USA Today Network. You were asked earlier about two quarterback systems. When you guys did that at Oklahoma in 2013 with Blake Bell and Trevor Knight, did that experience maybe show you anything about, I guess, either the advantage of using two quarterbacks or maybe the challenges that come with a system like that? That
situation was a little bit different. We named a starter. Another guy came in and played maybe week 3. And then became the starter for a series of weeks. Blake Bell was a different scenario altogether. We used him in the goal line short yardage package, used him in that in 13, but also used him in that in 11 and 12. But that's the type of role where there's a unique skill set and opportunity for that guy to help you, offensively, defensively, whatever it might be. But at the quarterback position, where you can use a skill set that, you think you have an opportunity to create advantage in certain situations.
Josh, Wes Rucker, 24/7 Sports. I guess from where this team was at the end of spring to where it is now, offensively, defensively, have you been able to get a sense, without having full practices and all that, just how much farther along the group is? And would that be different on each side of the ball in terms of how much they've progressed in terms of, I guess, fundamentally knowing the scheme?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is just connection and trust and belief in who we are, what we're doing, our accountability inside of the building, understanding the standard of what it means to be a Tennessee Volunteer football player and what that looks like daily as you enter the building. I think we have a greater understanding and are doing things at a much higher level than we were as we ended and certainly as we began last winter and spring. All of our players have had a chance to grow tremendously in understanding who we are and what we're doing by skill set, right? Fundamentals and technique, by strength, power, and speed, the growth that they've made inside of our off-season summer conditioning program, but then also being able to redigest everything that we're doing in our playbooks in all 3 phases of the game. We have grown. You're able to see some of that when you watch them work out. Looking forward to getting on the field and having an opportunity to go compete tomorrow morning.
Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports. Josh, you guys had, I think, a lot of guys experience and numbers coming back on the defensive line. Still went out and got a couple transfers. What kind of went into that decision? What do you guys as staff like about Caleb and Tajon?
Yeah, the transfer portal has been a double-edged sword for our program. Right before I got here, guys that had left, we felt like we had to add depth to what we were doing. Offensively, defensively, obviously a majority of that came on the defensive side of the football. We're able to add 2 guys on each level, the secondary, the linebackers, and the defensive line. Felt like we need competition, needed maturity, and guys that were ultimately going to be able to help us go compete.
Rob Lewis, VolQuest.com. Coach, you took over a UCF program that was hitting on all cylinders, and then you came in, took this job, and it was, it was mired in controversy, the NCAA investigation. Just how much of a challenge was that compared to, your first
There's
go-round?
challenges with every job. There's nothing easy in college sports. The competitive nature of it, how you enter the building, it's all about building connection, trust with your football team, no matter what the previous season looked like. Certainly, the uncertainty that our players faced, in the couple months leading up to me coming here was different than what I had faced going into UCF. The timing of when I got hired was different. You look at getting through June, typically the hiring process happens in December. We were cramming 7 months of work into 5 months. Proud of what our staff did, proud of what our players did too. But every job's unique, from recruiting to your alumni base to what's going on inside the program. But all of it's competitive and hard.
Jimmy Heim, Sports Animal. Josh, you have had a lot more players that left in the transfer portal than you signed in the portal. You've also had a couple of players that can't play for injuries. And I just wonder, how concerned are you about your depth on offense and defense?
Yeah, certainly. Just where we're at roster-wise, we are thinner than you typically want to be or are when you head into training camp. Keeping our kids healthy throughout training camp, but during the course of the season will be a huge impact, or have a huge impact on our season. We got to continue to develop the roster from the bottom up, and we're going to have some young guys that are going to need to help us as we go through this season.
Coach, I know you had several guys limited in spring or missed spring because of injury. How healthy are those guys, and how healthy is this team as you start fall camp, whether it's Banks, Roman Harrison, Lenneth Whitehead, just your roster in general, how healthy are you?
Getting those guys that were nicked up, a majority of them were shoulder injuries. All those guys are back, have had tremendous summers. Really anticipate every one of them being at 100% as we go through training camp. Making sure that we take care of them as we go through that, managing their workload, and making sure that they're continuing to stay healthy. Their maintenance plans will be really important. Our strength and conditioning staff and our training room have done a great job of working together to make sure that these guys are back and at 100%. Really like what those players have done.
So you don't anticipate anybody
No, I don't anticipate anybody of major note being limited here as we start training camp. All those guys that you mentioned will be full go.
Hey, Josh. You talked about at SEC Media Days, you're kind of under that threshold when it comes to COVID vaccinations. Have you gained any traction on that since SEC Media Days going into fall camp?
Yeah, we have continued to gain traction as far as the number of players inside of our roster that are continuing to get vaccinated. Obviously, that's not an overnight process as far as being fully vaccinated, the windows that take place. But our kids have continued more and more every day to go into the training room and ask and get that. Our medical staff has continued to do a great job of educating those guys. Obviously, you can see the landscape of everything is changing day to day, just as far as what's happening with CDC guidelines and what's happening inside of this state too. And we'll lean on our medical team to help us navigate that.
Do you expect to be over that 80 mark by the time season begins?
I think we'll ultimately find out, but when we hit that mark, I'll let you know.
Hey, Josh, Joe Rexrode from The Athletic. You got all 4 quarterbacks talking today, coordinators. You've allowed assistants to talk. This is a little bit different from how it has been here. Just wondering how important it is to you to be open like that. What is the value in that for a program in this position right now?
The value for us is that if you can have multiple voices speaking to the culture, the energy, what's going on inside of your program. I think it has a chance for our fan base to grab a hold of it, to see what's truly going on inside of our program, the gains and the progress that we're making daily, weekly, monthly. I think it has a chance to help us in recruiting as well. I think it's important. This is a passionate fan base that cares deeply about what's going on every day of the year, not just on game day Saturdays, the 8 times we play inside of Neyland Stadium. Giving them access and insight to who we are, what we're about, and how we're doing things, I think is really important.
Hey, Josh, Adam Sparks, News Sentinel. You've said a lot about trust. How does a player gain your trust? And considering the roster situation, is it possible you put players on the field that you don't trust?
I hope we don't have to put players on the field that we don't trust. The trust is earned and garnered in way you operate and handle yourself every single day. As a coach, right, how I handle every situation, positive, negative, there's a ripple effect to every interaction that I have with every player, every staff member. The same is true for our player. Are they on meetings on time? Do they have a notebook? How do they compete? How do they handle positive play? How do they handle negative play? How do they handle coaching? Who are they inside the weight room? We've charted everything. Our players clearly understand the standard of what a Tennessee Volunteer football player should be doing every single day. Where we started in February when I got this job to who we are now, the individual players have all grown so much, but the program in itself in that way doesn't resemble where we were when I took over. I'm proud of what we've done, where we've gone. That never ends. That's always a work in progress. At the same time, before we kick off looking backwards, we've come a long way.
Yeah, Josh, Mike Wilson from the News Sentinel. With Oklahoma and Texas scheduled to join the conference, what are your thoughts both on that for the SEC and also obviously Oklahoma, given your ties to that program?
Yeah, certainly. I think you want to coach and play in this league because you get a chance to compete against the best every single day, every single week. And, this league continues to strengthen itself inside the landscape of college football. I think if you look back 20 years ago, right, I'm not sure any of us would have guessed what the landscape would look like now, before the original shift of realignment. Once that happened, I think people thought that, at different moments in time, there was the possibility of realignment. Excited about what our league continues to do.
Josh, 2 things. Can you speak to Austin Pope, who's having to step away from football? And he mentioned that you encouraged him to suggested to him to stay on scholarship so he could still be around the team and get those benefits. That's 1. And 2, have you identified punt and kickoff return candidates at this point?
We have not named anybody kickoff, punt return. They're going to earn it. We chart it every single day. We chart, regular catches off of jugs. We chart competitive strained catches as well. Those guys understand that the guy that's going to be the guy back there catching the ball, someone that we're going to trust in his decision making. Also being able to field the ball, whether that's punt return, kick return, and a guy that's going to take care of it. Austin Pope, you absolutely hate it for the young man, a guy that obviously still wants to play, but the body's given out before his will to play the game. And that happens a lot in this sport. Hopefully not at this level, but certainly that happens at the next level. And just hate it for him because he's a guy that, we talk about trust. The coaching changes that he's been through, it took some work to build trust with him in some ways, but a guy that I think really started to trust the process, who we are, what we're about, and how we're doing things, and was really enjoying being inside of our building and felt good about, the potential for him to have a really big year. And, just medically just can't play anymore. And that transition to me is really difficult. It's something that I went through as a player. And those moments are tough when you're by yourself and you're uncertain about what your next step is, and that next step is happening faster than you planned on. So for him, just any way that we can help support him to go through that process, want him to understand that we are in his corner, appreciate everything that he's given to this football program, and want to be a resource for him, while he's going through that transition here over the next 6 months, but for life. And VFL means Vol for life, and that's something that we take very seriously inside of our program.
Josh, a number of players at the SEC Football Media Day said they would not pursue name, image, and likeness because they thought it would be a distraction. So from your perspective, how do you make sure that those that do pursue it, that it doesn't become a distraction?
Absolutely. Everything you do once you leave this building has an opportunity to be a distraction. Your family can be, name, image, and likeness can be, your personal relationships outside of this thing can be. So I think it's about players understanding, prioritizing, having a true understanding of what they want to accomplish and what it takes for them to go do that, staying true to that every single day. And I mentioned it at media days that I think this has an opportunity to help accelerate the growth curve of young men and how they approach things in everyday life, and time management and prioritizing the things that matter are certainly a part of that. And so you just try to educate those guys and make sure that they're making sound decisions.
Hey, Josh, have you had any recent conversations with the administration about whether there's any plan to self-impose any penalties this year? And have you had an opportunity to offer your opinion and weigh in on that with the administration?
My focus and our team's focus is on controlling the controllables, and everybody's extremely excited about what we've done and where we're heading, and the opportunity to get on the field tomorrow and start our training camp. From the moment that I've got here, our administration has kind of handled everything that's going on with the NCAA investigation. We've tried to be transparent and true with the kids in the building and the kids that we're recruiting. I don't know where that will ultimately end up or the time frame on that, but when we do, we'll communicate that with our players. But for us right now, every goal that we want to obtain is out there, and it's up to us to go chase it every single day.
Josh, I know that inside linebacker was obviously a big discussion point, at least with us anyways, throughout lots of camp.
It was with us too.
I figured.
In
I
case
was
you're
wondering,
wondering,
yeah.
I might have asked some of the people in this room if they could play it during the middle of spring ball.
No luck there. Judging where you are now going into camp from where you were after the spring game, is there any sense that things feel different there?
Yeah, it's a completely different room than where we left it in the middle or end of spring ball. We got a bunch of guys that some that have played it at a really high level that are coming back into the fold. Some that we really feel like have bright futures. Guys that had maybe shown some really some bright glimpses of being able to play it at a high level that weren't able to finish it out either. So it's a position group that is much deeper than where we left spring ball. Like the talent, like the attitude, toughness of those guys inside of that room. Collectively, they've had a really strong summer, and looking forward to the competition here as we get going this training camp.
Josh, Joe Milton was the only quarterback who wasn't here for spring. What could he do from the time he committed to now to ready himself for this specific competition he was entering?
Really the same thing that all of our guys could have done and have been doing. They've spent extra time in the film room. Those guys, as much as anybody on our football team, have been up spending extra time in the film room. Some of that with coaches, some of it by themselves. You walk out of the building late at night during June, during recruiting, and there were multiple guys that may have been in here doing extra work on the turf field here, spending nights getting better. I think it's imperative, and those guys have done it. Just the way that they led throughout the course of summer, whether that was during strength and conditioning drills, whether that was extra work, whether that was away from the building, all those things matter. They've all prepared themselves in a great way, studying our playbook, watching film, getting better the way that they can mentally, but then also spending extra time here physically, fundamentally and technique-wise, getting better at the things that we're going to ask them to do when we get on the field tomorrow.
Josh, I'm curious about projecting in August what you'll have during the season. What's sort of a coach's batting average of knowing in August what you're going to have at different positions throughout the year? How well will you know that in the next month?
This game's about competing. Tomorrow's not promised. Yesterday has no bearing on today. Control today. Go out and compete as hard as you possibly can. If you focus on that, that'll take you where you want to go.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. You can, We continue today, entering his first season as defensive coordinator at Tennessee and his 15th as a defensive coordinator at the FBS level, Tim Banks. We'll go right into questions.
How we doing, guys?
Hey, Coach, Ben McKee with VolQuest and the Swain event. I know y'all will be multiple and you're still evaluating personnel, but I'm curious if you all have kind of decided on a base defense yet.
I wouldn't tell you if we had. Yeah. No, we're going to be multiple. I mean, I don't think that's a secret. You know, I think at the end of the day, you know, when you're going to see two backs, you know, multiple tight ends, then 1 week you may see all empty. I mean, I think you need to be multiple. So that's the way we're building the defense, you know, and based on who we're playing, you know, obviously we'll feature, you know, one front maybe more than the other and maybe more defensive backs more than the other. So it's just really going to be based on the games.
Jimmy Himes with the Sports Animal. How many pass rushers do you think you were able to identify coming out of spring, and how many do you think you'll need this fall?
Hey, man, you guys are right after it. So, hey, we're looking for as many pass rushers as we can. You know, we obviously, you know, coming out of spring, you know, we had very, very limited reps, if you will, you know, 15, I guess, opportunities in general. We think we got some guys. You know, we think we got a couple guys. You know, I think we'll be unique in terms of making sure that we're putting the guys in the right spots to give them a chance to play their skill sets. But, you know, I think you ask any defensive coordinator in the country, you know, they never have enough pass rushers. So, you know, we're constantly looking for them. You know, I think most people think they have to come from the front. You know, obviously if they do, that's great, you know, but whether it's a linebacker, maybe it's a great safety or DB that can come off the edge, you know, we're constantly trying to evaluate and find out, you know, who our top pass rushers are.
Coach Brent Hubbs with VolQuest. You added 6 players on defense to the transfer portal that weren't here in the spring. What do you like out of that group? What are you most interested to see out of that group? And how different is your defense going to be because of that group?
Yeah, I think all of that is yet to be determined. You know, obviously those guys got here after spring ball, but we're excited about them. You know, we know based on the film that we evaluated before those guys obviously came to the University of Tennessee, and based on the skill set that we saw, we thought they would provide some depth, you know, and have some immediate impact in some cases. So I think we'll know more, you know, obviously as we kick this thing off tomorrow, you know, put pads on, continue to evaluate. But I think at the end of the day, you know, we were really lacking depth, you know, coming out of spring. So we feel like we addressed some areas that we think will benefit us well moving forward.
Hey, Tim, Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports, kind of piggybacking off that. Juwan Mitchell was the guy that led Texas in tackles last season. What did you guys like about him specifically? And Coach Heupel was talking about how different that room is now compared to the spring. Is it maybe a sigh of relief or a sense of relief that room is better than it was in the spring?
Yeah, it's never a relief until we get it going, but we're excited about him. You know, obviously when we watched him on tape, you know, he was a kid that, you know, see ball, get ball type of guy. You know, a guy that, you know, relished in contact, you know, but is also able to play in space. So, you know, we're excited, you know, from everything we understand. He had a really good camp, you know, in terms of his level of conditioning. So, you know, obviously a guy that's been in a fire. You know, I think he's eager to, you know, see how we do it here. And, you know, I think he's really eager to, you know, get this thing going tomorrow. So I'm excited about him. You know, that was obviously the linebacker room was one of the rooms that we felt like we needed more depth, you know, just some more bodies. And, you know, he obviously provides that. And, you know, we're excited to see him have a chance to participate with our group tomorrow.
Hey, Tim, Vince Ferrara, 99.1 The Sports Animal here in Knoxville. How do you view the nickel/star position as a defensive back in today's modern football? Some of those skill sets that are important. And then two, who are some of the candidates you've been able to identify so far?
Yeah, you know, that star position is super important because I think that guy has to be versatile. You know, he has to be tough enough to be able to play the run. But he also has to be athletic enough to be able to match up against some wideouts. You know, on top of that, you know, depending on schematically what you're trying to do, he may have to have some different drops. So he's part linebacker, part defensive back. So it's critical, to be quite honest with you, you know, that guy plays well, and we identify some guys that can do it. You know, Theo comes to mind. You know, obviously Theo's played some snaps around here. We felt like he had a really solid spring for us. I think Slaughter's another one that it was limited a little bit in spring, but we thought we'd seen enough flashes of him that, you know, we think he'll have an ability to play there. But to be quite honest with you, you know, we're still moving guys around. You know, those guys obviously have some experience playing a position, but based on what we did in the spring and based on, you know, our plan going into the fall, you know, we'll have some other guys that have opportunities to compete at that spot as well.
Eric Kane, 99.1 The Sports Animal and VolQuest.com. Will you have some linebackers that will play both inside and line up on the edge, like a Morvin Joseph, like a Roman Harrison?
Yeah, that's the plan. You know, if I could build a perfect defense, you'll have position flexibility at every spot. So the more, you know, our linebackers can line up at outside linebacker, the more our outside linebackers can line up at inside linebacker, I think the better it is for us. You know, we want to be able to play offense on defense. You know, and the only way to be able to do that is if those guys don't know exactly what they're getting from snap to snap. So we're definitely trying to evolve in that area, you know, and we feel like we have some guys and some candidates that we think fit that bill. But obviously, again, as I keep saying, you know, we'll find out tomorrow as we get this thing going.
Coach, Jake Nichols with Sports Illustrated Volunteer Country. Can you speak a little bit more to the depth that you've got at DB with corner and safety and just kind of the wealth that you have there?
The wealth. That's a good word. You know, listen, man, I think we have some experience back there and some guys that have obviously played a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's a new year, a new system. You know, we felt coming out of spring that, you know, we didn't have quite enough depth, you know, but obviously having a couple of portal guys come into our program and come into the fold, we feel like we've established, you know, some depth. Now, what that depth looks like, you know, is yet to be determined, you know, because, again, you just don't know. You got to see how guys react to the system, the guys that just got here, obviously. We're moving guys around constantly to make sure they're in the right position. So do we feel like we have some bodies? Absolutely. You know, we're excited about those guys. But at the end of the day, the way we start tomorrow might not necessarily be how we end or how we start going into Bowling Green.
Hey, Trey Wallace, Rocky Top Insider. What have you seen from Jeremy Banks this summer? Didn't get a lot of work in the spring, but from a leadership role being in the film room, how would you assess him going into fall camp?
Yeah, you know, our strength coaches, I think, did a really good job along with our medical staff, you know, just getting him, you know, obviously put back together and, you know, giving him an opportunity to be in the best shape of his life. So I'm excited about him. You know, I really am. You know, he's a kid who loves football, craves football. And we're really, truly looking forward to watching him, you know, create a role in our defense. So He's been outstanding in terms of his preparation to this point, and we're looking forward to, watching him take the next step as we begin camp tomorrow.
Stay here on the left, Vince, then Adam.
With you guys being so multiple defensively, how do you view the defensive line in terms of inside, outside end, inside to tackle? I know you guys will do some different things, but how versatile do you want your linemen to be able to go to those different positions in different schemes?
Yeah, like I said earlier, and I'm not telling you that all of them will be able to do that. I don't know if that's realistic, but the more that can, I think the better it is for all parties involved. To be able to play outside or play defensive end and be able to slide inside, that brings nothing but value, right? And obviously, the chance of a guy going from inside to outside is slim, but you never know in some cases, depending on the personnel group that you may see. So I just believe in versatility, and that's what we're trying to develop, but obviously as coaches, I think it's our job to put everybody in the best position to be successful. We're obviously going to play to their strengths, whatever that is, but if we were able to do it exactly how we want to do it, we want those guys to be able to play outside and inside, or outside to inside if we can.
Adam Sparks, News Sentinel. How essential is depth to your system? Are you flexible in terms of rotation? Do you have to go deep? Can you be thin and play as well?
Yeah, I think it's critical, in this day and age, with the high octane offenses you're going to see, ours in particular, and just some of the ones we're going to face. I think you need to be able to have as much depth as you possibly can. But plus, I also think it's good for morale. The more guys have roles, the more ownership they have within the program. But at the end of the day, you get what you earn. We're not going to put a guy out there if he hasn't earned it. But if guys have earned the right to get out there and help UT win, then we're going to do everything in our power to get those guys out there to give us that chance. But I think you need depth in this day and age to be able to be successful against, the high octane offenses you're going to see week in and week out.
What have you seen from Kamal Haddon and Brandon Turnage since they arrived? Are they strictly corners, or will you try to move them around?
Yeah, I think their backgrounds are both from a corner perspective, but again, as we get in camp and we get a chance to legitimately evaluate those guys, I think we'll know more in terms of, where they'll play and where they fit. But they've worked. Our strength coaches have been very pleased with the direction that those guys are headed, in terms of their preparation and how they attack the summer workout. So we're very eager to see how they attack, camp. So we'll see.
Coach, I got two questions. One is you talked about high-octane offense. Do you think going against a high-octane offense in practice every day benefits your defense in some way?
I surely hope so. I really do. I think so. Obviously when you see teams and they're doing something you're not familiar with, that's always a challenge, but I think every offense that we're going to see, has some form of fastball in their arsenal, whether they use it week in and week out, that's debatable, but I don't think you can play offense in this day and age without having some of that in your package. So I think the fact that we'll see it, daily, hopefully will pay dividends for us as we get going.
And secondly, you talked about versatility at the linebacker spot. How important is it to have linebackers that can not only stop the run, but play pass defense?
Again, it's everything. As we stated earlier, everyone wants to make it a space game. And obviously if the backers want to play, which, I've coached linebackers for many years, and I know those guys are, tough and hard-nosed and, typically the heartbeat of your defense. So, those guys have evolved over the years. Typically if you're playing in this day and age, they have to be able to, cover a back out of the backfield, be able to reroute a slot or a shifty guy out in space and tackle guys out in space. So it's super important that those guys, have the ability to play in space, if you will.
Going back to kind of that high-octane offense that you said that you'll be facing every day in practice, with these new guys coming in with Brandon and Juwan and some of those guys, have you told them about what you've seen from Josh Heupel's offensive system and kind of the speed they can expect in practice?
Yeah, I don't think they need me to tell them. I think their teammates have told them all they need to know about that. So they'll see it. Obviously those guys worked out this summer and, had a chance to, go against the offense a little bit on their own. So hopefully they have an idea, what it looks like. But, once we get going and, we obviously have calls and different change-ups and things of that nature, and those guys being able to adjust and make calls, on the field, I think will be really the test for those guys. But those guys are competitors. We wouldn't have taken them if we didn't think those guys could find a role, somehow, some way here. And we're looking forward to see if that comes to fruition.
Coach, as you wrapped up spring and you assessed 15 practices and now you get ready to kick off fall camp, based off that assessment, what's the biggest priority for your defense that this first part of fall camp? Is it pace of play? Is it retaining? Now, what's your biggest priority for your unit?
Yeah, I think you said it was two things. A, what is our recall looks like, based on those 15 practices we had and now the 16 going in. What does that look like? Do they still understand the base and the fundamentals that we put in? And then the second thing is creating depth. We need to find out, who are our, top guys and how they fit. So, again, as everyone has noted earlier, we got a couple guys that are new to the program. We got to find out in a hurry, how they fit. Some of the things obviously coming out of our exit interviews when our players leaving the spring, we had some things that we identified as strengths and weaknesses. We want to see how well they've improved on them going into camp. But ultimately, we're trying to see what our recall looks like, which will determine how much more we can put in terms of our package in, and then obviously making sure that we got guys in the right spots moving forward. Yeah, I would say, we put in all of our base, our base fundamentals, our base defense. Now you start to get into more of your sub packages and different things of that nature going into the fall.
John Adams, Knox News. Tim, we talk a lot about wide open offenses now, but in this division, there are a number of teams that can really line up and run the ball. Georgia's 5 deep at running back. South Carolina has a great running back. You go on and on. Pretty good offensive lines, too. Do you think you have enough depth in the defensive front to hold up over a course of a 12-game season?
Yeah, I think that's a million-dollar question. I think that's what we're going to work toward. We obviously have some bodies. We have some guys that have played, but we also have a lot of youth and a lot of unknowns at that position. So, but that's what makes it fun. We're excited about the challenge. I know our front is excited about the challenge. And again, I think as I stated earlier, from week to week it changes. You name some teams that run it really well or have the ability to run it well, and obviously there's going to be some offenses that can throw it. So, it's our job, week in and week out to make sure we have the best package possible put together for these guys to give them a chance to be successful. And, we're going to do that.
Last 2 questions, Vince, then Eric.
First chance to talk to you since recruiting opened up earlier this summer. What's your experience been like recruiting for the University of Tennessee now that you can do a lot of the normal things in recruiting and going into your first season?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Obviously, we have a great conference to sell, and we got a great university to sell with great traditions. So it's just been great. Obviously, I think, every coach that you ask would say they miss, the interaction, with the recruits and the coaches and things of that nature. And having a chance to get back to that was a breath of fresh air. So it's not hard to sell this program because there's a lot of great things to sell. And I think as we continue to go and, get out there and play some games and continue to recruit, I believe we'll start to, see some dividends being cashed in on that.
You might not have had a chance to talk about this with your defense just yet. That might be something coming up in camp. But I was wondering, individual goals per game. Do you have some of those, and what might some of those goals be?
To win. Yes, that's number one goal. We want to win. We want to find a way to do our part to make sure that at the end of the day that UT is successful. Whatever that looks like, week in and week out, we don't know, but we obviously have some core fundamentals and some beliefs that we have that we think are critical to us playing great defense. But ultimately, our number one goal was just to win, and that's how we start everything and that's how we end everything. What do we need to do to win?
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, we continue today, entering his first season at Tennessee and his 18th season at the collegiate level, the offensive coordinator and tight ends coach of the Tennessee Volunteers, Alex Golish. Questions, please raise your hand. We'll start in the back with John Adams.
John Adams, KnoxNews.com. Alex, a lot of teams in this league have really good running backs, a lot of depth at running backs. You don't really have that in terms of proven running backs. What are you looking for from this group, and how optimistic can you be at this point?
Yeah, I think we walked away from spring saying that we are still trying to figure that out. That was one of the big question marks for me. The way we play, the tempo at which we play, you really got to have 3 to 4 guys ready to roll. And by ready to roll, I mean ready into a game, the guys that you're going to play. 3 that are legitimately playing, and a 4th and 5th, hopefully, that are with you on special teams. The tempo invites the rotation. So we left spring saying Jabari is definitely a guy that we can count on, we can trust. Still young, still hadn't had a whole lot of time, but really proved that he understood what we were trying to do. Not a complete finished product, but understood what we were trying to do. And I think attitude, effort, toughness, all those things embody what Jabari is. After that, it is a complete toss-up going into camp, just as big as any other competition. I was not anticipating the running back being the first question, but just as much as any competition, that's it. Tyon has had a really, really good summer. Really proud of Tyon. He's really growing up, really figuring it all out. Just how to be a college football player in general. Really excited about who the 3 to 4 to 5 could be. I think the next week and a half to 2 weeks will really tell us that. Jalen Wright has had a really good summer. He showed a lot of promise this spring. Knock on wood, we keep that group healthy and let it kind of play itself out. But you're dead on. These next couple weeks are going to be really, really big there.
Ryan Shumpert, Rocky Top Insider. Cade Mays' versatility is very well known. Is there a spot you would like him to play at, or is it just wherever you need him most?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name.
Cade Mays.
Cade Mays. Yeah, Cade Mays' versatility. We're gonna play him at guard, play him at tackle. He played a bunch at tackle in the spring, played a bunch at guard in the spring. We're gonna end up playing our best 5 there. He's one of them. We'll figure out where the best spot is. More so how others fit, and then where he would fit from there. Just what are the most important traits that a quarterback is going to have to display over the next couple of weeks to win the starting job? Yeah, it's a good question. Traits from the quarterback: the ability to run, manage the offense, be really, really efficient, give us the best opportunity to score. I know that's a little bit cliche in a lot of ways, but you got to be able to operate within the system. We are different. We are unique in how we play. We are really, really down to the wire here now. We're 30 days out from playing. We're gonna have to figure it out quick, pour reps into whoever that is, and get the other guys behind them ready to go play. But efficiency. Efficiency in the run game, efficiency in the pass game. By efficiency, I mean decision-making and consistency in play. Consistency is really the word throughout the offense in general. Consistency, stringing days together and allowing the coaches to trust in them and allowing their teammates to trust in them. But decision-making, consistency, help if we could push the ball vertically down the field.
Adam Sparks, News Sentinel. On Jabari Small specifically, what did you see that impressed you in the spring? And did you already know that he would fit into the offense from seeing film of last year or anything like that, or has it only been firsthand?
Yeah, Adam, every guy we came in here that had film, we watched game film. The guys we didn't have game film on, we watched practice film. Jabari didn't have a ton of game film. From the moment I met Jabari, maturity would be the word. Mature in so many ways in terms of how he carries himself, how he handles himself, his approach to the way he works. He's got mountains to climb in terms of leadership and those types of things, in terms of confidence. I think it's really hard to lead when you haven't played a ton. I think it's really hard to have confidence when you haven't physically shown it. I think preparation breeds confidence, and he certainly has prepared that way. But it's unique when the veteran of that group is a sophomore, is a 19-year-old young man. So I've put a lot on Jerry Mack and put a lot on Matt Merritt of teaching Jabari, and we've asked Coach Hype, and he's taken that role on too, and myself, put a lot on myself to teach him how to be that. But until we get into games and get to playing, I think that's really, really hard. But maturity would be the word. He's really talented. He's got great feet, great balance, great vision. He's a natural running back. He's a real SEC running back. But maturity, the way he goes about his work, and I'm excited to see him grow. He's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, you and Coach Heupel have talked since you've been here about kind of the flexibility of the offense. You can do it different ways depending on your personnel, whether it's quarterback, tight end, whatever. Does this offense have an identity? Do you have an identity for this offense as you go into fall camp based on what you got done in the spring?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we came in and because we were so different schematically, at least what we hope to be, so different than what it was here. I think we had to kind of create that identity a little bit, and not a big slogan guy, acronym guy. We use one word, attack, and attack legitimately from an outside looking in. What attack means, and it can be quantified, but what attack means is playing harder than your opponent for longer. And within that is the tempo. Within that is how we play. But in terms of the actual plays and what we do, the kids understand the identity. We're going to line up really fast. We're going to play really fast. We're going to communicate extremely well. We're going to play harder than our opponent for longer. That is a daily battle, just like the culture we're building, just like what we want our team to resemble from the outside looking in, from the inside looking out. The identity of our offense is something you're fighting for every day. Starts with playing harder than your opponent for longer. The tempo, the pace at which we play, that is the identity. Having fun is the result of that, and I think to Coach Hype, that's so big that we are positive, that we enjoy what the kids enjoy what we're doing. We as coaches enjoy what we're doing. And to be honest with you, we haven't like truly faced any adversity as an offense or a defense, really as a team, that would make us really overcome a whole lot of hurdles yet. We have as coaches and as we've navigated our way through since we got here at the end of January, but as a team, that's what I'm excited to see. I'm excited for it to be hot. I'm excited for guys to be tired. Excited to line up in a scrimmage with nobody in the stands and things get really hard and see how we overcome that. We've had that a little bit in the spring, and guys individually have had some situations, but I'm excited for it to get hard and see what those tests look like before we line up on September 2nd. That, for me, is what I want to see in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, Alex, Patrick Brown with 24/7 Sports. With your group specifically, with the tight ends, with Austin Pope not being available, how does that sort of change your thinking, and does it mean you guys have to maybe get a freshman ready, maybe like Miles behind Princeton Jacob?
Yeah, Patrick. Losing Austin, I think we in some ways we're getting close to prepared for that. He missed some time this spring. I kind of looked at him as a bonus in a lot of ways, being a veteran guy that's played a bunch. So unfortunate. To me, more than what it is to our offense or what it is to our room, I hate it for him. And that's not cliche coach talk. That's real. Like, there's a guy that's really bled orange and white for a very long time, worked his tail off to get back to being able to play. And, man, I don't know another way to put it other than it sucks. Sucks for him, sucks for our team. And he's battled through a lot, real life adversity with his family and back surgeries and all things you never wish upon anybody. So I'm happy that he's getting to a better place. For us as a team, for us as an offense, you asked specifically our room. You know, Jacob, Princeton have played a bunch of football. I'm relying on those guys to fill whatever gap Austin was gonna fill. Put a lot on Miles Campbell. I know I've very openly spoke about him and his ability to play the game, to understand the game. He's a freshman. I told Coach Hype, I've never played a freshman at that position. And I've been really, really fortunate to coach some pretty good ones. So we'll see. The next 3 weeks for Miles will be huge. The next 3 weeks for Julian will be huge. And we'll kind of see. Hunter Salmon has got to step up and play some in there. And we'll end up at the end of the day, we'll be all right. We'll play the best 11 guys, and we've made it work before. But the hope is that Miles can take the next step in the next 3 weeks, and I'm okay with putting that on him.
Jimmy Himes with the Sports Animal. 2 questions. Who is your most accurate passer? And secondly, running a high-octane offense, do you think it could perhaps mask any of the deficiencies you have on an offensive line?
Man, Jimmy, loaded questions. Most accurate passer. I don't know. Joe wasn't here in the spring. Be really curious to probably answer that question in about a week and a half. Probably not even fair to answer among the other 3 just because the spring was so heavy installation and so heavy learning the offense. And us getting here, really we didn't get going with those guys till the middle of February. And so I don't think it's probably fair to answer that. And I'm not hiding from the question. I really couldn't tell you the answer to that. I could probably tell you arm strength, or I'll probably reserve judgment on that as well, but I have a better feel there than I probably do truly accuracy. Coach Heupel, probably the strongest arm in that room. Also the only lefty. But in terms of, what was the other question? I got me rattled there. Yeah, can it hide deficiencies on the O-line? I think you can hide deficiencies on the O-line. I think more than hiding deficiencies on offense, I think the tempo, the spacing more so exposes deficiencies on defense. I think that's the reason behind we do what we do, exposes deficiencies. It also probably hides somebody's ability to, especially if maybe a better player across from you is able to get his cleats in the ground and really come off and tee off on you. That's the advantage to what we do. With that means you got to practice that way and you got to work out that way. You got to condition that way. But can it hide some deficiencies? I think it more so exposes deficiencies on the other side than it really hides your deficiencies. When it is what you do, our guys just get into a rhythm of how we play. You obviously, I think you still got to line up, you still got to block, you still got to tackle. I think it gives you some advantages in some ways, schematically and physically.
Eric Handy, Sports Animal, VolQuest.com. How many tight ends do you want to have to play in a game, and how important is it in this offense for the tight end to be well-rounded, split out wide, be able to catch, block, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, Eric. From my experience, what you would like to have is 4 guys that are ready to play in the 5th, kind of like I talked about the running backs in the 5th. That's primarily a special teams guy that can get you out of a game at the end. Your heavy load playing with 2 or 3, 2 guys, 3 guys, heavy load special teams. Those body types, those big skill body types. I think you recruit to that. I don't think we're at that right now here. I think with what we do on offense, with how we operate, we can adjust and make it work. We did a year ago at the previous place, adjusted and made it work. We weren't loaded there. So
I think the wish list would be having 4 to 5 ready to roll. I think the reality is we'll end up with 3 to 4. We're hoping for 4, and we'll go. And if that number is 2, then it's 2. Then we've got to continue to develop in the receiver room to kind of overcome that. But we can get through a game. We can operate at a really, really high clip, and with 2 ready to roll. But obviously, that's a position that's really gives you so much flexibility. Gives you it's way easier to call when you have multiple tight ends that you can play. In terms of a guy that can do it all, you want to recruit guys that can play flex, they can play in the box, they can play attached. You want multiple guys. Same thing you're seeing at the National Football League, like guys that are pass catchers that can line up and play in the box. Those are the guys that are getting drafted at a really, really high clip. But you want to recruit complete tight ends. I think we're well on our way there. We're doing a really good job of identifying those guys, recruiting those guys. And I think it won't be long before we are where we want to be there.
Vince Ferrara, 99.1 The Sports Animal here in Knoxville. You mentioned Joe Milton earlier. No, you haven't coached him in official practice just yet, but give us a breakdown of his skill set and what he is like and you like about him.
Yeah, Vince, he's got a bunch of film, so you get to see at least what he has done at the Division I level. You got to take away from that the good and count on Coach Halsley to continue to bring the good out in him. There's some deficiencies in there that we've worked like crazy to correct, that Joe has worked like crazy to correct. But, I remember him out of high school. I remember watching that high school film. I know Coach Hype, they recruited him at UCF. So there's like a bunch of us that have seen him, a bunch of us that have studied him, and then there's actual film from him at Michigan a year ago. So really strong arm guy, big body type. Big body. He is big. He is as big of a quarterback as I've ever been around. Strong, really strong arm. Has the ability to run. They did not ask him to do that just a ton, but can win running the football with him as well. But extremely strong arm. Since he's been here, you kind of look at the film, you realize he's a really highly intelligent, fun guy to be around, loves football, all those things that we preach in recruiting, all those things that we internally constantly talk about, guys that are mentally tough, guys that are intelligent, guys that share a love for the game of football. Those are the guys we want in our program. He fits that. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. We've not gone through any adversity with Joe. Joe had gone through adversity at Michigan, obviously ups and downs in his career season there a year ago. We've not gone through any of that with Joe. We've not gone through any of that in a lot of ways with a lot of guys. That will be the true tell of what Joe is. I'm excited to see it. He's excited to show us. He's excited to show himself, his family, like that he can take the next step. As a passer, as a runner, as a quarterback, as a guy that can lead a big-time college football program to where it should be. Now, we'll find out. I'm excited to find out. I think we're all excited to find out because he's the only one out of those guys that we have not seen in person, live, in this system, in this offense. I'm excited. I'll have a way better idea in a week and a half, and we'll find out.
Rob Lewis, VolQuest.com. Coach, staying with the quarterbacks, is there a sense of urgency in establishing a pecking order so you can start divvying up the reps in the way you want to, so the guy that, the first and second guys get the bulk of the work in practice?
Absolutely. To me, there's a huge sense of urgency. You want to start to shape the offense towards who that guy is and having a plan for who the next one is. Because you got to prepare. You got a plan A, and then you got to have a plan B. And this COVID thing's still real. You got to have a plan C. And so maybe a plan D even. So I would like to get a pecking order as fast as we can. We're going to give all of those guys a really honest, fair shake at this thing early. And then the pressure's on to at least get your top 2 to a point where you can start to split those reps, and we'll have a really good idea. Like I said, week and a half is my goal, to at least have a top 2, maybe 3, narrow down to a top 2. And the neat thing for me as the offensive coordinator is Coach Hype has been through it, done it. I've really leaned super heavy on him in that regard to help with that part of it. And Joey Halsley has been right at his side for a really long time with it. We talk about it daily, just like you guys talk about it daily. But for me, for us as an offense, I think the faster it happens, the better. Now, when it gets announced and all that, I think that would be obviously up to Coach Hype. And if I had it my way, nobody would know till we rolled out on September 2nd. I don't know if that's possible or not here. Seems to be not. But I have learned that. So I won't answer the question when it comes up. It'd have to get leaked out. Bill, that's on you.
Blake Topmeyer, USA Today Network. Alex, what's your philosophy on 2 quarterback systems?
Yeah. I guess, Blake, the best way I can answer that is we're going to play the best 11 guys we got. And generally that's 1 quarterback in there. I think you can certainly play with 2. I've done it. I've been around it. Coach Hype has done it, has played with 2. I think we're going to play the best 11, and then everybody else that earns our trust and deserves to play, we're going to fight our tails off to play as well. So will there be 2 quarterbacks playing in a game? I would probably bet there certainly could be. There'd be 3, like that would probably be a stretch. But to me, I would love to have 1 guy you can hang your hat on and you can really build this thing around. If there's another one that deserves the opportunity to play, we'll certainly do it. But I truly believe that.
Last question, Joe, in the middle here.
Yeah, Joe Rexford, The Athletic. Actually, Rob and Blake both asked questions I was going to ask you, but also on the quarterbacks. You mentioned adjusting the offense to whoever maybe gets the job or gets more reps. How much difference in the skill sets are we talking about here?
Yeah, Joe. I mean, there's obviously athletically different skill sets, ability to throw the ball down the field, different skill sets. In terms of what we do from a big picture standpoint, tempo, splits, how we operate from play to play, how we operate situational football wise, most of that is a system that you're trying to fit a guy into. In terms of the actual plays, in terms of how you can gain an advantage, you're going to tailor it specifically to a guy's skill set. You look at, like, at least in the recent history, how a Dylan Gabriel is different than a Mackenzie Milton, and like in Hype's pedigree, a Drew Lock is different than a Mackenzie Milton. You can look at it a bunch of different ways, but guy that can give you an advantage running the football, you would game plan drastically different than a guy that maybe cannot, that can't get you out of trouble with his feet. So truly athletic ability, ability to run the football. Can that quarterback be an extra guy in the run game for you? Because that is drastically different. And if he can't, you plan it out different. And we have the ability with how we operate in the run game, how we operate in the pass game to adjust it. But again, the faster you can get to that, the better, because you start to build it that way, and your skill guys get to catch the ball from one particular guy or 2 particular guys, and even the O-line hearing it from the same guy in a rhythm over and over again. And at the same time letting that guy screw up and me having a feel for what that guy likes, all those things factor into how you play a game. So we'll see.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Go Vols.